We have already described to you about the world of dreams. We have also explained that most people do not remember their dreams. Is there a way to remember our dreams? Can we learn it?
Could you please help us develop the yoga of sleep? What can the students do in order to develop the ability to remember our dreams every night?
Those aspirants who sincerely yearn for direct mystical experience should unquestionably begin with the discipline of the yoga of sleep. It is ostensible that the Gnostic should be demanding with himself. Before lying down to rest from the concerns and fatigues of daily living, it is convenient to pay due attention to the state that we are in. The devotees who, due to circumstances, lead a sedentary life really lose nothing and gain much if they take a short and brisk walk in the fresh air before lying down. Such a walk will loosen the muscles. However, it is convenient to clarify that we should never abuse physical exercises. We need to live harmoniously. The dinner, snack, or final meal for the day should be light, free of heavy or stimulating delicacies, carefully avoiding to ingest elements that might keep us awake. The most elevated form of thinking is non-thinking, when the mind is still and in silence, free of the concerns of the day and worldly anxieties. One is then in a state that is 100% favorable for the practice of the yoga of sleep. When the superior emotional center really works, the thinking process ceases, even if it is only for a brief period. Such ecstasy is made possible by listening with infinite devotion to the delightful symphonies of Wagner, Mozart, Chopin, etc. Beethoven's music is especially extraordinary in making the superior emotional center vibrate intensely. Each note has its significance, each silence a superior emotion. Inner revolutionary progress becomes impossible without the immediate help of our Divine Mother, Tonantzin. Every grateful son should love his mother. Outside of the physical body, during the hours of sleep, the soul should converse with its Divine Mother.
Is there anything we need to do around us, in our environment, to be able to get ready for the experience of dreams?
We need to pay attention to the room in which we sleep. The decoration should be pleasant. The most desirable colors for the pursued purposes, despite what other authors advise, are precisely the three primary tonalities: blue, yellow, and red. Undoubtedly, the three basic colors always correspond to the three primary forces of nature: the holy triamazikamno, the holy affirming, holy denying, and holy reconciling. It is necessary to remember that the three original forces of this great creation always crystallize in a positive, negative, and neutral manner. The bedroom should always be very well perfumed and ventilated, but not flooded with the cold night air. After a detailed review of oneself and the room in which we shall sleep, the Gnostic should examine his bed. If we observe any compass, we will be able to verify for ourselves that the needle is oriented towards the north. Unquestionably, it is possible to consciously take advantage of that magnetic current of the world that always flows from south to north. Let us orient the bed in such a way that the headboard always remains towards the north. In this manner, we will be able to intelligently use the magnetic current indicated by the needle. The mattress should not be extremely hard or too soft. In other words, it has to have an elasticity such that it will in no way affect the psychic processes of the sleeper. Squeaky springs or headboard that creaks at the slightest movement of the sleeper's body constitute a serious obstacle for these exercises. A log or notebook and a pencil are placed under a pillow in such a way that they can be located easily in the darkness. The bed sheets should be fresh and very clean. The pillowcase should be perfumed with our favorite fragrance.
So this preparation relates to preparing ourselves before we go to bed. Is there something we need to do in our way of sleeping to help with the remembrance of dreams?
After fulfilling all these requirements, the Gnostic ascetic will proceed to take the second step of this esoteric discipline. He will get into bed, and having turned off the light, he will lie face up, in other words, on his back, with eyes closed and hands on the solar plexus. He will remain completely still during some instants, and having soothed or relaxed totally both physically as well as mentally, he will concentrate on Morpheus, the god of dreams, who is in charge of educating us in the mysteries of sleep. It is urgent to have faith and to know how to supplicate. We should ask Morpheus to instruct and awaken us in the suprasensible worlds. By this time, a very special somnolence begins to take over the Gnostic, and he then adopts the lion posture. Lying on his right side, with his head pointing to the north, he pulls up his legs slowly until the knees remain bent. In this position, the left leg rests on the right. He then places his right cheek on the palm of the right hand. He lets the left arm rest on the leg of the same side. In this manner, the student should go to sleep.
So after this point, one goes to sleep. For those that do not remember their dreams after waking up, is there something they can do to remember the dreams?
When awakening from normal sleep, every Gnostic student must do a retrospective exercise on the process of sleep in order to remember all those places he visited during the hours of sleep. We already know that the ego travels a great deal to places where we have been. And everything we have seen or heard is important. Masters instruct their disciples once they are outside their physical body. It is urgent to know how to meditate deeply and then to practice what we learn during the hours of sleep. It is necessary not to move when we awake, because with a movement, the astral body is shaken up and the memory is lost. It is urgent to combine the retrospective exercise with the mantrams, Raum, Gaum. The Gnostic should carefully write down the details of the dream or dreams in the log or notebook that he placed under the pillow for that purpose. In this manner, he will be able to keep a detailed record of his inner progress in the yoga of sleep. Even if only vague fragments of the dream or dreams were to remain in the memory, they should be carefully recorded. When nothing has remained in the memory, the retrospective exercise should be initiated, starting from the first thought that we had at the precise instant of waking up. Obviously, that thought is intimately associated with the last dream. We need to solemnly declare that the retrospective exercise is initiated before having totally returned to the waking state, when we are still in the state of somnolence, trying to consciously follow the sequence of the dream.
Very interesting. Let us say we reach the state of remembering most of our dreams daily. Then what is the next step?
Undoubtedly, it is urgent to review our log or notebook monthly, with the objective of verifying for ourselves the progressive improvement of the oneric memory. Any possibility of forgetting should be eliminated. We should not continue with the subsequent exercises as long as we have not achieved perfect memory. Particularly interesting are those dramas that seem to come from other centuries, or that unfold in atmospheres or environments which have nothing to do with the dreamer's waking existence. We have to be in a state of alert perception, alert novelty, and pay very special attention to the study of the details, which includes specific matters, conversations, gatherings, temples, unusual activities in relation to other persons, etc. Having achieved the integral development of the oneric memory, having already eliminated any possibility of forgetting, the symbolization process will open the path of revelation. We should seek the basic science of dream interpretation in the law of philosophical analogies, in the law of analogies of the opposites, in the law of correspondences and numerology. The astral images reflected in the magical mirror of the imagination should never be translated literally, for they are merely symbolic representations of archetypal ideas and should be utilized in the same manner that a mathematician utilizes algebraic symbols. It is important to affirm that such types of ideas descend from the world of pure spirit. Obviously, the archetypal ideas that descend from the being arrive marvelously, informing us about the psychological state of this or that center, or about very intimate, esoteric matters, or possible successes or dangers, etc. They are always enveloped in the robes of symbolism. The opening of this or that astral symbol, this or that scene or figure, with the purpose of extracting the essential idea, is only possible through the logical and confronting meditation of the being. Ancient wisdom teaches that Tonantzin, Devi Kundalini, our particular cosmic divine mother, since each person has his own, can adopt any form, for she is the origin of all forms. Therefore, it is convenient for the Gnostic to meditate on her before falling asleep. Every day, the aspirant should enter the sleep process repeating with much faith the following prayer. Tonantzin Teitio Inan. O Mother, come to me, come to me. If the Gnostic persists with this exercise, sooner or later, an initiating element will have to surge forth as if by magic among the changing and amorphous expressions of his dreams. The profound study and analysis of each recorded dream is something that cannot be postponed.
What is the next step? Is there a stage beyond that? What is it?
When the aspirant has carried out with full success all the Gnostic exercises related to the esotericism of dreams, he is then intimately prepared for the practice of returning. In the previous step, we said something about the initiating element, which surges forth as if by magic among the changing and amorphous expressions of his dreams. Each time that the initiating element, be it a symbol, sound, color, or person, etc., is remembered, upon waking up from normal sleep, the aspirant, with eyes still closed, continues visualizing the familiar key image. And then he will intentionally try to fall asleep once again, continuing with the same dream. In other words, we will say that the aspirant tries to become conscious of his own dream, and that is why he intentionally continues it. But taking it to the waking state with full lucidity and self-control, in this manner, he becomes a spectator, an actor of a dream, with the advantage, which is certainly not something negligible, of being able to abandon the scene at will in order to move freely in the astral world. Then the aspirant, free of all the obstacles of the flesh outside of his physical body, will have detached himself from his old and familiar environment, penetrating a universe governed by different laws. The discipline of the dream state of the Buddhist Tantrist didactically leads to the awakening of the consciousness. The Gnostic can only awaken to the authentic state of enlightenment by comprehending and disintegrating dreams. The sacred scriptures of India solemnly affirm that the entire world is Brahma's dream. Based on this Hindu postulate, we will emphatically affirm the following. When Brahma awakens, the dream concludes. As long as the aspirant has not yet achieved the radical dissolution, not only of the dreams themselves, but also of the psychological triggers that originate them, absolute awakening will be something more than impossible. The four Christic Gospels insist on the necessity of awakening. Unfortunately, people continue to sleep.
Is there something beyond this step as well, in the discipline of the yoga of sleep?
We have said much in the previous answer about the initiating element of dreams, and it is obvious that all that is left for us is to learn how to use it. When the Gnostic has kept a record of his dreams, he unquestionably discovers a dream that always repeats itself. Undoubtedly, the oneric experience that is always repeated is the initiating element which, if intelligently used, leads us to the awakening of the consciousness. Each time that the mystic, lying in bed, intentionally lulls himself to sleep while meditating on the initiating element, the result does not let itself wait too long. Usually, the anchorite relives such a dream consciously, being able to withdraw from the scene at will, in order to travel in the suprasensible worlds. When we know the technique, any other dream can be used with such an objective. The person who awakens from a dream can continue it intentionally, if that is his desire. In this case, he should fall asleep once again, reliving his oneric experience with the imagination. The intentional repetition of the dream is the first step towards the awakening of the consciousness. The second step is to separate at will from the dream while in full drama. Some aspirants succeed in taking the first step, but they lack strength to take the second step. Such persons can and should help themselves with the technique of meditation. Making very serious resolutions, those devotees will practice meditation before going to sleep. In this case, their intimate problem will be the theme of concentration, an evident self-reflection in profound inner meditation. During this exercise, the anguished mystic, full of sincere emotion, invokes his divine mother, Tonatsan, Devi Kundalini. Shedding tears of pain, the Gnostic ascetic laments the state of unconsciousness in which he is and implores for help, begging his mother to give him inner strength to detach himself from any dream at will. This esoteric discipline is certainly only for very serious persons. since it demands infinite patience and enormous inner efforts. The discipline of the Tantric dream is in reality an esoteric preparation for that final sleep that we call death. Having died many times during the night, the Gnostic anchorite who has consciously grasped the four beatitudes that present themselves in the oneric experience then moves on to the post-mortem state at the instant of disembodying. With the same ease, he voluntarily introduces himself into the world of dreams. Outside of the physical body, the conscious Gnostic can verify for himself the destiny that is reserved for souls beyond death. If every night, by means of the Tantric discipline of dreaming, the esotericist can consciously die and penetrate the world of the dead, it is clear that he can also, due to this reason, study the ritual of life and death.